Hey everybody and welcome to my YouTube video. Today we are talking about the 5 best deductions for individuals. Now I must preface this by saying individuals contribute the highest percentage of tax collected by SARS but actually have the least incentives to do so. The number of exemptions and deductions that apply to individuals are actually very limited, and today we're talking about the deductions that apply to them. Note that this video is especially for people who are in full-time employment or traditional employment receiving a salary. So let's get to the first one. The first one is what I would call PPRA, which is pension, provident, and retirement annuity. It's all lumped up into one category, and the pension you get through your employer, the same thing as a provident fund, but the RA is a deduction that you have to get yourself. You have to contribute to a retirement annuity. The total deduction possible is limited to 27.5%. That's the max. You can't contribute more, or a maximum of 350. So if you contribute up to 350, you can't go past that. Any contribution above this limitation or above that limitation will be carried forward to the next year. In order to get the deduction, the IRP5 is enough to get the pension and provident fund, but for the RA certificate, you need to be able to show SARS the RA certificate. So by far, this is the best tax deduction available. The others that we have is medical. Now, medical is a funny one because it used to be a deduction. Now it's a credit. It's a discount against the tax that you're supposed to be paying. And it's calculated by the number of dependents on your medical aid. If you have out-of-pocket medical expenses, additional medical expenses, you could get an additional medical tax credit, but there's a huge limitation if you are under 65 or you have nobody that you are financially responsible for in terms of a disability. So the limitation is 7.5%. So you have to have quite a lot of medical expenses versus your income in order to see any additional medical tax credit. Now it's important to know in the budget speech, they did not adjust the medical tax credit higher, which means that that's yet another way for individuals to actually pay more tax because they haven't adjusted the medical aid tax credits. Then we get to travel allowance. Travel allowance is a weird one because you do see corporates, oh no, we'll give you a travel allowance, and then you don't even drive for work. Anyway, if you do get a travel allowance, you can get a travel deduction depending on whether you actually travel for work. And work travel is defined by whether you travel from the office to a client, from the client to the office, from your home to the client, or from the client back to home. But it doesn't count you driving from your home to the office of where you work at and back. It only applies to actual business travel. It's usually client related or site related. You have to produce a logbook which is approved by SARS. Section 18A donations, and those are made to registered public benefit organizations that are registered as a Section 18A organization. You must be able to produce a Section 18A certificate in order to get the deduction, and the deduction is limited to 10% of your taxable income. I must say this, the donation is it's a deduction that you get because you're being nice, right? It's not actually a way to pay less tax. It's if you have extra money, you could donate, right? You could donate to a public benefit organization. So this one, the donations one, isn't really one that's available for most people because most people can't even do the RA, right? Okay, so I'm just putting that out there. Finally, we have working from home. Now the working from home deduction is one that is still very difficult to claim. SARS in fact made it really hard to claim, even though during COVID, a lot of people were forced to work from home, and there's a couple of issues with it. The first one is you have to have a home office. A home office is defined as an exclusive space made for work purposes, and so it can't be a multi-purpose room. Another one is that it must be used mainly right? So 50% or more of the time that you work must be from home, and the exclusive rule usage. Also, the expenses that you can claim through working from home is limited. You can't claim bond interest, for example. You can claim a portion of your rent. So this claim is actually very, very limited, which is why a lot of tax practitioners actually stopped suggesting that people claim the working from home, because the effort of making the claim is actually not worth the deduction that you'll get for it. Finally, I want to point a last one out, which is annoying to me, is because sometimes I've watched people talk about, these are your deductions, these are the smartest things you can do for taxes. Tax-free savings account is not a deduction. It's a good idea, right? You contribute to a tax-free savings account, but it's not deducted. It's not going to give you a tax deduction, and but the benefit is eventually when there's capital gains, or there are donations, or there's interest that's being paid, that you'll receive that tax-free. That is the advantage. Whereas with an RA, if you eventually get the annuity income, you will pay tax on the annuity. The tax-free savings account has no tax on it. However, interesting, the tax-free savings account does form part of your estate, and RA does not. That's an interesting side note. Anyway, those are the 5 best deductions for individuals. And I'm going to end, if you're stuck to the end and you're listening, still listening, thank you for being here. The only one that actually makes a significant difference is this one. Why? Because this is purely a limitation. It's purely a discount. Travel allowance is highly situational if you get a travel allowance. Section 18A donations is only given if you actually make that contribution. It's not, it's not tax advice if I suggest you make a donation to a Section 18A organization. That is something that you have to do on your own volition, And working from home, like I said, huge limitation. You can't even claim bond interest. So the only incentive, the only good tax incentive for employed individuals, in my opinion, is the first one. Anyway, I hope you liked this video, and I can't wait to make more. Cheers.